welcome. You're watching Business Today Television. I'm Sakshi Batra and this is BTS, that's Behind the Scenes, a show that showcases to you a sneak peek into the latest edition of the Business Today magazine with all our viewers of Business Today Television. Joining me on this program are Krishna Gopalan. He's the executive editor of Business Today magazine. We also have with us economy editor Surabhi joining in, both of whom have contributed into key articles that you must catch a glimpse on. And I'm going to be showcasing to you now the first glimpse of this edition that I already have with me right here. On the cover you see lights, camera, collapse. That actually gives you an indication that the cover story is on the Indian film industry that Krishna Gopalan has covered for us. So we are straight away going to Krishna first to understand what's really happening with the Indian film industry. Now we do know, Krishna, that right after COVID pandemic, we had seen how, people stopped going to the theatres, OTT really took center stage, and we were now used to watching all our favorite films in the comfort of our own rooms, sitting on our couches and watching it as we please at the speed and the time that we want to watch it at, and of course at a much affordable rate as well. Now of course those issues continue to trickle in. We are seeing that the exhibitors are continuously trying with all their might to get back the footfalls into the theatres, but there is something more as to what you have really found out as the current challenges exist. Could you detail for us what's really happening with the film industry now?
Hi Sakshi, nice to be here. Thank you very much. I'm just going to break it down. The pandemic actually created a problem which was pretty unexpected. All of us were stuck at home. What was not completely a part of the plot was the OTT guys going out there and picking up movies at absolutely astronomical prices. So as a result, we got pampered for choice, sitting at home in our own comfort. The other thing that actually nailed it, unfortunately, was the gap between the time a movie was released in a theater to the time you got to see it, my apologies. So the thing is, as all of us are used to it, it has to be a gap ideally of about 8 to 12 weeks to make sure that there's enough headroom in the theater before it actually gets on to you watching it on television. If you look at markets like Hollywood, it's actually a 6-month theatrical window. The problem here is if you have a 2 to 3 month theatrical window, there's no compulsion for the audience to go right out there. That is from a viewer point of view. From a business point of view, what really upset the equation completely was the fact that actors upped their fee, simply seeing an opportunity because they said if the OTT folks could pay out that kind of money to buy your digital rights, I'm not inferior anyway because the movie is being bought in my name, so I need to up my fee. So in many cases, it went up by 2, 3, sometimes even 5x. Let's be clear about this. The revenue stream did not change very much because the OTT part of it, much as it brought in more revenue, all of that went to servicing the enhanced staff fee. So the producer really didn't make too much of money in the process. Theatrical remained where it is. Now, the spoiler was when movies started to bomb and OTT players suddenly decided to hold back the paychecks. So now we're having a situation where a lot of movies remain unsold, deals are being renegotiated, or just the fact that the films aren't getting the kind of rates that they believe they should. So in that scenario where revenue looks absolutely the same, costs have gone through the roof, and big budget flops have therefore emanated. So we have a whole host starting from Maidan, there's Thug Life, Salman Khan, Sikandar. All of them unfortunately had to hit dirt at the box office. So we have a situation where, and the audience, if you're going to be pampered for choice, if it's a bad movie, they won't show up anyway. And if it's a good movie, they're saying if you're going to be showing it to me 2 or 3 months later, why would it take the effort to be in the theater? So you've created a problem and you don't know how to get out of it.
Okay, but I want to understand one more thing from you, Krishna. A lot of us were getting a feeling that it was the Bollywood films that were not really doing well. We did not have a storyline, we did not have blockbuster showcasing, and most of the films that were coming in were actually flops. But is the scenario limited to all the challenges you've mentioned only to Bollywood, or is it an industry-wide phenomena you're witnessing?
I must clarify this actually. The 3 languages that dominate the landscape of the Indian film industry are Hindi, Telugu and Tamil. And not any particular order. Just to drop one piece of number, Telugu and Tamil on average have 5 new releases every week. So you're speaking about 250 movies a year. So which means the pipeline is on. And remember, you're speaking of just one state because Tamil will service Tamil Nadu, Telugu will service Andhra and Telangana. Whereas Hindi has the advantage of a pan-India appeal. In that kind of a scenario, the Tamil and the Telugu producers also managed to rake in the money because of big ticket OTT rights. But they've also faced the music. Stars have had to up their fee. Vijay, for example, for the latest project is said to be commanding 260 crores just as staff fee. Ajit gets about 160 crores. Allu Arjun for Pushpa got about 300 crores. The numbers we're speaking are absolutely mind-boggling. Hindi is, of course, not inferior in any way. Varun Dhawan gets about 40 crores, and that's absolutely the base. Ranbir gets about 60. We are speaking of three figures. Akshay Kumar is well over 100. The Khans, of course, take a different route where they get a stake in the profit or the upside because they produce the movies that they act in. So if you look at all these numbers with a sense of, let's say, completeness, you understand why the model has come apart and why it is where it is.
Absolutely. Another big thing that our viewers must know is that Krishna has managed to get an exclusive with Amir Khan, into this edition in case you really would want to understand how are the superstars as well as the biggest producers of Bollywood really looking at how the changes are, developing in the industry, what's happening with OTT, how are they really making all the efforts that they can to protect the industry from the impact of OTT as well is something that you should definitely catch on. So congratulations to you, Krishna, on getting that exclusive with Amir Khan there. Help us understand, when a superstar like Amir Khan, who's been a big producer as well and who's been behind some of the biggest releases that we've seen in the country, decides to go against selling the rights of his latest film, Sitare Zameen Par, to an OTT, what does that reflect? And, why would he take such a decision at this point?
Couple of things here. It's not the first movie Amir has produced. All of us know he's involved with Lagan, Tare Zameen Par and all of it. So he understands the commercials of the industry, so to speak.
Yes.
Amir had a bit of a difficult background because Thugs of Hindustan and Lal Singh Chaddha, two of his recent releases bombed, unfortunately. So he was also under the scanner in that sense. But he obviously had faith in his project. It's a remake of a Spanish film. It speaks of Down syndrome, basically a bunch of children who are out there to as a part of a sporting team. Amir obviously had confidence in the project, and when we spoke to him, he said he was taking a big ticket risk because the normal practice would be to pre-sell the OTT rights before the release, get in the money, and then have the upside. He said nothing of that sort. The movie will have a theatrical window of 6 months bare minimum, and then I'll decide if I'm going to take the OTT route. It's also possible Amir may decide to give it to YouTube and it could have a pay-per-view. But by doing this, he's not only taken on the OTT players, but told the industry that if you people do not respect theatrical as a key revenue source, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Because ultimately, if you go back in time to the history of the film industry, the only source of entertainment is for us to go to the theater. OTT is a much later phenomenon thanks to broadband, thanks to fancy television sets and all that coming in. But fundamentally, the big ticket revenue comes from you watching a movie in the theater and you spending money on food and beverages there. So Amir believes there's still potential left in that model, as we have seen in markets like Hollywood, where you have to go to the theater, make the big ticket money for a producer or the exhibitor, and then decide if it's good enough to come on OTT. The OTT guys have understandably not been very happy about it, but Amir says this is the way I'm going to do it.
And, I did read up the key quote that you've mentioned where Amir Khan says, unlikely my films will ever come on OTT. That's a big statement to make.
It is, because he's spoken of a 6-month deadline. The OTT guys want a 2-month deadline. If they want a 2-month deadline, it means it's going to run for just X number of days in the movie theater. And he can scarcely afford that. He believes it has to run its course, wait for the audience to kind of like the film and then move to OTT, because his whole logic is simple. He keeps speaking of kind of coming to you and giving you a cup and saying, do you want to buy this cup now? And if you say no, he says the cup is going to be given to you 6 weeks hence anyway, so why would you buy it right now? So the whole impetus in terms of going to the movie theater and watching the film, if that's lost, why would the audience ever come back?
Absolutely, Krishna. So this definitely is going to be an eye-opener for a lot of people who are from the film industry, who are associated, a lot of stakeholders, and even the viewers and the consumers at large as well, to really see whether this is an inflection point. Will this really lead to some kind of a change on the basic business model like you talked about? Will there be somebody who will blink at the end, is something that we really need to find out. Thanks a lot, Krishna, for sharing all of those. And of course, a lot of our viewers will definitely be interested in Amir Khan's interview. So there you have it on along with the cover issue. Krishna has detailed that excerpts of the interaction with Amir Khan on the film industry, on the OTT industry, and what could follow. But now from the film industry to the corporate landscape, and Surabhi is with us to really tell us about another moment of reckoning unfolding, and that's around Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. The IBC, which was passed back in the year 2016. It was definitely, Surabhi, hailed as one of the milestones, in the legislation world, in the reforms world as well. and it also did definitely bring in the much needed discipline among borrowers as well in the initial part. But we want to understand from you, what have you really found out? Has the IBC lost its appeal along the way? And when it came to its primary goal of timely resolutions, has it really kept on to it?
Hello, Sakshi. Thank you for having me on the show. So, like you said, the IBC is actually one of the most landmark pieces of legislation that we've seen in recent years. It's really added to India's attractiveness as a investment destination because otherwise, contract enforcement and ensuring that companies can be wound up easily was one of the biggest challenges that people saw. Since the IBC has come, let me give you a brief recap. About 8,300 cases have been referred to the IBC since 2016 to March 31 this year. And about 1,900 cases have already been resolved or gone in for liquidation. So when you talk to bankers and experts and officials who helped draft this piece of legislation, everyone says that it's brought the fear into borrowers and promoters that the asset that they worked on and they own can be taken away from them. And to that extent, it's absolutely helped them, ensure that they pay back their loans and take loans only for actual purposes and not how we saw cases in the past where money was taken and then diverted to other purposes by several promoters. So definitely the IBC has worked. It's ensured that a lot of companies, if you remember, there were those dirty dozen cases which were part of the original, 12 IBC cases, and then another 12 followed. So all those were the really big ticket cases, and we saw all of them being resolved. But yes, over the years, there's been considerable concerns over the IBC in terms of timelines, which is now roughly about 700 days, 713 days actually in the last quarter, as against the, time-bound mandate of 180 days, which was extendable by another 90 days. But there have been a lot of challenges along the road, and the law has had to be tweaked because, as long as the people gaming the system, they'll obviously come out with ways to, or, different ways to continue gaming the system. So we saw measures like 29A, where the law was amended to make sure that promoters cannot, in some other form, come back and get control of the company again. So over the years, we've seen the IBC get amended 6 times, and there have been 100 plus changes in regulations. But overall, when you talk to people, they say it's had an impressive track record till now, but more needs to be done.
More needs to be done. Tell me, if I have to draw some indication from the recent Supreme Court ruling on the JSW Bhushan Power and Steel case, do you in somewhere, believe that that has cast a shadow on IBC, its sanctity, and, despite the amendments that you've already made, is more needed there for an amendment to this legislation alone?
Oh, absolutely. Like, as everyone is aware, review petitions are currently pending with the Supreme Court, and it's being hoped that the Supreme Court will, review the ruling that came out in May. And one of the biggest concerns people have is that the sanctity of the IBC could be challenged if this ruling is not reviewed and pushed back. And because the IBC, like I said, has brought fear into promoters. And if something like this happens where a company which has already been given out for 6 years ago and now suddenly it has to be liquidated, what happens to its employees? How do bankers plow back the money? And will investors actually trust a process where, 6 years, 7 years down the line, the IBC, the company can be taken away from them? So that's a very valid question which everyone is asking. But when you look at the fine print of the ruling, and this is something which the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has also said, is that the ruling does not cast an aspersion on the processes under the IBC. It's rather pertains to this particular case of JSW BPSL. So that's an issue where, the lenders and everyone is filing review petitions to see if that case can be withdrawn. But overall, when we talk about the IBC, yes, there are need for amendments because, like I pointed out, the time-bound resolution system has gone completely away with, cases going on for years now once again. And if you see in the past, the NCLT, there was large vacancies. This needs to be looked at. And of course, there are also pending reforms under the IBC, such as, cross-border insolvency and pre-pack insolvency for large companies. And also, how can insolvency proceedings go on for companies, new age companies like startups, which may not have too much of, assets with them that can be sold off to a bidder. So these are things which the IBC needs to look at, and amendments have to come in. And in the monsoon session of Parliament, which is currently going on, I believe that the government is also looking at bringing in some amendments.
Okay, so we'll keep an eye out on the monsoon session of the Parliament to see if there are any amendments really taken up in the Parliament as well as with regards to IBC. Well, thank you so much, both Krishna and Surabhi, for sharing with us all the insights onto what has made this edition absolutely very special. We also have some exclusive interviews here along with the ones that we have detailed for you viewers in this edition, and that's from the stock market's point of view. It's Mr. Ramdev Agarwal who's given an exclusive interaction to our group editor Siddharth Zorabi. So please do read on to that. And of course, we've detailed for all of you, in case you were still wondering about SEBI's Jain Street, kind of order that came in. Of course, SEBI has now allowed Jain Street to restart their operations and to resume trading in the derivatives market. But how the entire issue was unfolded, if you want to really understand that, there are some in-depth stories on that too. Many thanks for being with us, both Krishna and Surabhi, on this edition. I hope our viewers have enjoyed the interaction as much as I did with both of you, and I hope that all of you go out there and grab your editions right there. Thank you so much for being with us on this special.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.